If there's one thing that we all learn by watching children and adults shift school and work to a virtual remote format over the last 2 years, is that there's a huge difference between showing up and actually engaging.
And just because you attend an online class, it doesn't mean that you are actually engaging in that class and actually learning and growing your mind.
In the same way, there's a huge difference between a patient properly using, i.e., being compliant with or adhering to the use of a medical device at home, and a patient actively seeking to squeeze every ounce of clinical value out of that device to improve their own outcomes.
Increasingly, the healthcare and medtech industries are evolving to support remote diagnosis, monitoring, and treatment of health conditions by patients and their caregivers. But without the benefit of the doctor's office, hospital, or real-time supervision, this can get complicated.
So, how do we get patients and their caregivers not just to use devices, but to actively engage with them in the best way possible to improve their own healthcare? And for those with chronic conditions, how do we make this happen as a regular routine that just happens without intervention by the provider or payer?
That's what we're going to be discussing in this three-part series on patient engagement in connected medical devices, presented by Orthogonal.
I'm Bernhard Kappa, founder and CEO of Orthogonal. We're all about improving patient outcomes faster. We mostly work in software as a medical device and connected medical device systems, and we apply modern methods within the regulatory constraints to build, evolve, and scale solutions faster.
And I'm Adrian Pittman, user experience design and human factors expert, currently director of product design at LinkedIn, previously at Google and Orthogonal. We'd like to thank you for joining us today to listen to the third of a three-part series from our recent conversations with two fantastic industry experts who shared their experiences and perspectives with us on patient engagement in connected medical devices. In the first and second episodes, we spoke about how the pandemic impacted patient engagement and how user-centered design can improve patient outcomes. In our third and final episode of the series, we're going to talk about what the future might hold for patient engagement as it relates to connected medical devices. We'll cover where we see the real breakthroughs coming from in the future, and some of the challenges we're still going to have to collectively tackle as an industry. So with that, let's return to our conversation with Gia Roselles and Christy Zuber. Thinking about what's next, where do you hope to see things go in the future? And what are some of the low-hanging fruit opportunities that you see to sort of push us in the right direction?
I hope that something Christy mentioned comes into play, which is different types of training for clinicians who are going to be working with users who are taking their healthcare into their own homes. I think that could make a huge difference, and it wouldn't be very difficult to fold that into the training that they're already getting.
I think I would also, building on that, I'm also really excited about the opportunity to begin to design more to at risk populations that don't have a lot of access. So I'm working with several organizations that are partnering up with a coalition for the homeless, for example. And when you think about the opportunities, if you can design things for populations such as that, how many other opportunities you can design for people who are struggling with homelessness and you solve to those challenges. Imagine how many other needs you've met as you've addressed that. And so, I think sometimes really opening up our mind, and you can find the common and the uncommon. And so those, I think, extreme situations like that are amazing grounds for innovation. I mean, just like how taking care of people in space has been and all the things have come from that, we find when we push ourselves in those kinds of ways, we find out that, wow, in the process of doing that, we've uncovered 150 things that are fantastic for, a more bell curve part of our population. And, how amazing is that? So I'm really excited about the opportunities for clinicians to be a part of it. I'm really excited about how our ability to begin to use methods to engage people differently. I'm really excited about behavior change and understanding people's lifestyles. I'm really excited about meeting people's needs that have been, unmet in the past and seeing where that leads us.
You just made me think that we're going to be developing all these new technologies, digital, electronic, who knows. It's a chance for us that we haven't always considered in the past, like different countries,
Hmm.
different different people, people who don't have internet, people who are living in poverty. This is a chance to develop new things with everyone in mind so that we can come up with more equitable solutions as we go along.
And I think the same thing applies when you're designing for emerging markets, right? Where some of these things, on the one hand, aren't really there that we expect. At the same time, in some cases, they've, learned to adapt technologies and do things that we aren't doing here, right? If you look at mobile payments and all of those types of things, a lot revolves around the smartphone in a place where you don't have landlines and internet connectivity and all of those types of things. And I know folks that are working on devices specifically for emerging markets that, because they're designing for those things and a somewhat different set of constraints, does not mean that those products don't end up being useful, here. They just happen to be designed for different constraints, and maybe you can get the same thing done more elegantly for less money. And ultimately that comes back here, down the line as well. So that for me is a fascinating area. I wish more money was devoted towards that, right? So
Yes.
Totally, yeah. It's funny, like for me, I think going back to something that Christy said, I think accessibility, but with an additional angle of more diverse solutions. I think a lot of the options that are proposed are variations on established themes, some of them 50, 60 years old. They're just digitized. And one could argue that some things just,
Yeah.
it's the bicycle, it's only so many improvements you could
Yeah.
make on it. But the vast majority of these things are not bicycles. Like they never really worked for the people that they're supposed to be helping. And, iterating on them isn't really getting us where we need to go. And so, there's as technology becomes
Yeah.
less expensive to experiment with, and a variety of different technological superpowers become available in the design and development space, seeing more exploration around that, more optionality around solutioning. As an example, I look at like the Google Home, which is a product that I was using before I worked at Google. I used it after I left Google. And what I found interesting about it was how little it required me to do to get value out of it. I just plugged it in, connected it to the internet. Two items that were easy the first time and get easier with each successive device you add because it just borrows it from everywhere else. Apple has a similar model. And as long as I'm comfortable with the microphone being on, and it doesn't always have to be on, it can answer all my questions. It can integrate my home. It can follow me on my mobile device. And I imagine a world where my health conditions follow me everywhere too. They're with me all the time. And I need to be able to live my life and not live my life for those conditions. And I know that there are a lot of people that have chronic lifelong conditions that feel the same way. The solution should be equally seamless. And getting to a point where we can do that, I think is really, exciting.
Here, here.
Absolutely.
I agree. There's only one problem, right? If the microphone's on and next thing you know, Amazon is telling you that, you should, there's some great voice lessons you can get because they listen to your singing and it's
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
that is a
it's like,
There you
oh
go.
yeah,
problem. Well, you can't have a advertising media
right,
financial model. Let's agree. Let's
right,
agree
right,
with that.
right,
Right?
yes.
Yes, we can't mix up medical with advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, those two things can't go together at all. Yeah, different universes. Well, everyone, this has been really enjoyable. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we wish you guys the best, and hopefully our paths will cross on future conversations.
I hope so. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been great.
Christy, I'm a big fan, Christy.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I feel so fortunate. When you get to actually do these things and meet amazing people like you and the others here. And I'm so grateful.
Let's all make sure to connect on LinkedIn
Great.
too.
All right.
We will. Great.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
We'd like to thank our awesome guests for this podcast, Christy Zuber, the founder and managing director of Aspen Labs, and Gia Roselles, director of user experience at Becton Dickinson. I'm Bernhard Kappe.
And I'm Adrian Pittman.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more content like it, you can check out Orthogonal's website at orthogonal.io. That's orthogonal.io. Our Insights section is regularly updated with fresh content related to connected medical device systems, software as a medical device, and digital therapeutics. You can also reach out to me at bkappe@orthogonal.io. That's BKAPPE at orthogonal.io.
Or reach me at iam@adrianpittman.com. That's IAM@adrianpittman.com. We look forward to hearing from you.